The species that refused to stay dead. The mission that should have been simple. The research vessel Eternal Wisdom hung in orbit above Earth, invisible to the primitive sensors below. Inside its observation deck, Professor Velcara studied the blue planet with her 3 golden eyes. She was a Caltharian, one of the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy. Her people had been studying other civilizations for over 40,000 years. This should have been a routine observation mission. The humans were young, barely 10,000 years old. They had not yet developed faster-than-light travel. They had not yet left their solar system. By galactic standards, they were infants, hardly worth the attention of someone with Velcara's credentials. But the Galactic Academic Council had specifically requested her for this assignment. Something about the humans troubled them. Something they could not quite explain. "Professor, I have completed the historical analysis," said her assistant, a young Caltharian named Trevik. His voice carried a note of confusion. "The data makes no sense." Velcara turned from the viewport. "Explain." "The pattern that shouldn't exist." Trevik displayed a holographic timeline above the conference table. "According to our records, humans should have gone extinct at least 7 times in their history. Massive volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues that killed half their population. Each event should have been terminal. Yet they survived. Not just survived, Professor. They thrived. After each catastrophe, their population grew larger. Their technology advanced faster. They spread wider across their planet." Trevik highlighted several points on the timeline. "Look at this. 2,000 years ago, a plague killed 30% of their population. Within 200 years, their population had doubled what it was before the plague." Velcara studied the data with growing interest. In her 40,000 years of research, she had never seen anything like this. Most species followed predictable patterns. A major catastrophe would set them back centuries or millennia. Some never recovered at all. But humans seemed to treat extinction events as minor inconveniences. "What about their wars?" Velcara asked. "Surely those would have limited their growth." Trevik pulled up another dataset. "That's the strangest part. Humans fight constantly. They've had over 15,000 recorded wars in the past 5,000 years. They've developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They've actually used atomic weapons on each other. And they're still here. Not only that, but their periods of greatest technological advancement come immediately after their worst wars. It's as if conflict makes them stronger instead of weaker. The discovery that changed everything." Velcara spent the next 3 months studying human behavior patterns. She watched their cities, their markets, their homes. She observed how they raised their young, how they treated their elderly, how they responded to crisis. And slowly, a picture began to form in her mind. A picture that frightened her. "Trevik," she said one morning, "I want you to run a simulation. Take a typical human civilization and subject it to the same pressures that destroyed the ancients." The ancients had been the most powerful civilization in galactic history. They had ruled 1,000,000 worlds before a combination of resource depletion, climate change, and civil war had wiped them out completely. Their fall had happened 300,000 years ago, and the galaxy still told stories about their greatness. Trevik ran the simulation. The results appeared on screen. "The human civilization survives," he said, disbelief clear in his voice. "Not only survives, they adapt. They develop new technologies to replace depleted resources. They unite their factions to fight the common threat. Within the simulation's parameters, they emerge stronger than before." Velcara felt a chill run through her body. "Run it again. This time at a war with a superior alien species." The simulation ran. The humans lost badly at first. Their primitive weapons could barely scratch the enemy's shields. Their ships were destroyed by the thousands. Their colonies were burned. Then something changed. "Professor," Trevik's voice was barely a whisper. they're adapting. They're studying the enemy's weapons and reverse engineering them. They're developing countermeasures. They're winning. Delcara watched as the simulated humans turned the tide of war. They captured enemy ships and learned how to build their own. They cracked enemy codes and used them for deception. They fought with a creativity and desperation that the simulation's alien invaders couldn't match. Within 50 years of simulation time, the humans had not only survived, they had conquered their attackers. The truth about survivors. I need to go down there, Delcara said suddenly. I need to talk to them directly. Professor, that violates every protocol we have. First contact must be carefully planned, approved by the Council. I don't care about protocols. I need to understand what makes these beings different. Delcara took a shuttle down to Earth that night. She used advanced technology to disguise herself as human, a difficult process that required constant concentration. She landed in a small town in what humans called North America. The first person she met was an old woman sitting on a bench outside a small building. The woman smiled as Delcara approached. You look lost, dear, the woman said. Can I help you? Delcara sat beside her. She had learned the human language through months of observation, but speaking it was still strange. I am trying to understand something. About your species. The old woman laughed. Well, that's a tall order. We barely understand ourselves. What do you want to know? Your people have faced so many disasters. Wars, plagues, natural catastrophes. How do you keep going? How do you survive when any of those things should have destroyed you? The wisdom of age. The old woman was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. You want to know our secret? There's no secret. We keep going because we don't know how to stop. I don't understand. Look, I'm 83 years old. I've lived through wars, economic crashes, personal tragedies that would have broken most people. Lost my husband 40 years ago. Lost a son to cancer. Lost my home to a hurricane. And you know what I learned? Delcara waited. I learned that humans are stubborn creatures. We fall down, we get back up. We lose everything, we start over. We face impossible odds, and we find a way anyway. Not because we're special or blessed or destined for greatness. But because giving up isn't in our nature. The old woman pointed at a playground across the street where children were playing. See those kids? They don't know about the wars or the plagues or the disasters. They just know that today is a good day to play. And tomorrow, if something terrible happens, they'll cry and hurt and grieve. But the day after that? They'll find a way to play again. That's irrational, Delcara said. To continue hoping when all evidence suggests failure. Maybe, the old woman agreed. But we're still here, aren't we? And all those civilizations that were more rational, more logical, more advanced, where are they now? Delcara had no answer. The warning they didn't want to hear. Delcara returned to her ship that night with a heavy heart. She spent a week writing her report for the Galactic Academic Council. When she was finished, she sent it with a priority flag. The council called an emergency session to review her findings. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy attended. Delcara stood before them and delivered her conclusion. Humanity is not like other species we have studied. They possess a quality that we have lost somewhere in our evolution. They refuse to accept defeat. They refuse to accept extinction. No matter how many times they fall, they get back up. This is concerning, asked the KRYLL representative. They sound primitive and emotional. They are, Delcara agreed. But they are also the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. The chamber erupted in confusion. Dangerous? The humans had no space fleet, no advanced weapons, no ability to threaten anyone beyond their own planet. Delcara raised her hand for silence. I ran simulations. If humans develop faster than light travel within the next century, and they will, they will spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Their adaptability, their refusal to quit, their ability to turn every setback into an advantage, these traits will make them unstoppable. So what do you recommend? Asked the council chair. Delcara took a deep breath. I recommend we leave them alone. Completely alone. No contact, no observation, no interference of any kind. And I recommend we spread a warning to every species in the galaxy: do not attack humanity. Do not threaten them. Do not give them a reason to see you as an enemy. Why? Because if you hurt them, they won't just fight back. They'll adapt. They'll learn. They'll become stronger than you. And they won't stop until they've won. That's not a prediction. That's a guarantee based on every data point in their history. The vote that changed the future. The council debated for 3 days. Some species wanted to destroy humanity before they became a threat. Others wanted to uplift them, bring them into galactic civilization early, guide their development. Delcara argued against both options. You cannot destroy them. They've survived everything their own planet has thrown at them. They'll survive you too. And you cannot control them. The moment they realize you're trying to guide their development, they'll rebel. That's what humans do. In the end, the council voted to accept Delcara's recommendation. A quarantine was placed around Earth's solar system. No ship was allowed to enter. No contact was permitted. Humanity would develop on its own, without interference. And across the galaxy, a warning was spread to every civilization: there is a species on a blue planet in the Orion Arm. They call themselves humans. Leave them alone. Do not threaten them. Do not attack them. Because if you do, you won't just face a war. You'll face a species that has never learned how to lose. The mistake the galaxy would regret. The empire that refused to listen. 300 years passed. Humanity developed faster than light travel, exactly as Delcara had predicted. They ventured out into the galaxy, exploring, settling new worlds, making first contact with dozens of species. Most species remembered the warning. They treated humans with caution, respect, even fear. Trade flourished. Diplomatic relations were established. The galaxy learned that humans could be valuable allies, creative, adaptable, surprisingly compassionate despite their violent history. But there was one species that had not been part of the council when the warning was issued. One empire that saw human expansion as a threat to their own territory. The Zrath Empire. Emperor Krelvor stood in his throne room on the capital world of Zrathes Prime, studying holographic displays of human colonies. The Zrath were an ancient species, older even than the Caltharians. They had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 20,000 years without challenge. Until humans arrived. They settle on worlds we claimed centuries ago, Krelvor said to his military commander, General Threshcore. They build colonies and systems we designated for future expansion. They ignore our boundaries as if they don't exist. The humans claim those worlds were uninhabited, Threshcore replied. They say claiming empty systems without occupying them doesn't constitute ownership. I don't care what they claim. Krelvor's voice echoed through the chamber. They are primitives. Newcomers. They should bow before us, not challenge our authority. Threshcore hesitated. My Emperor, there are warnings about humanity. From the Galactic Academic Council. They recommend. The council is full of cowards and scholars. We are warriors. We have crushed 100 species who dared to defy us. What makes humans so special? The attack that started everything. The attack came without warning. 20 Zrath warships appeared above the human colony of New Hope, a peaceful settlement of 50,000 people on a lush green world at the edge of human space. The Zrath broadcast their ultimatum: you have 24 hours to evacuate this world. Any humans remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile invaders and will be eliminated. New Hope's governor, a woman named Sarah Martinez, immediately contacted Earth's Central Command. But Earth was 6 weeks away even at maximum FTL speed. There was no time for reinforcements, no time for diplomatic negotiations. The colonists had to decide for themselves. "We should evacuate," said the colony's security chief. "We have enough transport ships. We can get everyone off-world in 20 hours. Governor Martinez stood at the window of her office, looking out at the town below. People were going about their daily lives, working, playing, living. This was their home. Many of them had left Earth specifically to build a new life here. "No," she said quietly. "Governor? We're not leaving. This is our home. We built it with our own hands. We're not going to run just because someone bigger and meaner told us to. But we can't fight them. They have warships. We have, what? Farming equipment and construction vehicles?" Martinez smiled grimly. "Then I guess we better get creative. The defense that shouldn't have worked." The next 24 hours became legendary in human history. The colonists didn't have weapons, so they improvised. They converted industrial mining explosives into missiles. They turned construction mechs into combat walkers. They used their mining lasers, designed to cut through rock, as improvised weapons. They even weaponized their agricultural drones, loading them with any explosive material they could find. When the Zrath deadline expired and their warships descended to cleanse the colony, they expected an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves in a fight. The first Zrath dropship was destroyed by a mining explosive launched from a grain silo. The second was crippled when construction mechs, machines designed to lift heavy equipment, grabbed it and literally tore it apart with hydraulic arms. The third landed safely, deploying Zrath ground troops who were immediately swarmed by weaponized agricultural drones. Governor Martinez coordinated the defense from the town hall, using civilian communication networks to relay targeting data. "They're landing troops at grid reference Delta 7. Someone get those construction vehicles over there." A voice crackled back, "This is Mike Chen. I've got my excavator. Me and 5 other guys are heading that way now." The Zrath were confused. This wasn't how primitive species were supposed to fight. They were supposed to panic, to surrender, to beg for mercy. Instead, these humans were using farming equipment to fight trained warriors. The lesson in human stubbornness. General Threshcore watched the battle from his flagship in orbit. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "They have no military training, no proper weapons, no defensive infrastructure." His tactical officer studied the data. "Sir, it appears they're improvising. Using civilian equipment as weapons. The creativity and speed of their adaptation is unprecedented. They're farmers and builders, not warriors." "Yes, sir. But they're fighting like warriors anyway." Threshcore ordered more troops deployed. Heavier weapons. Orbital bombardment of defensive positions. The Zrath Empire had crushed rebellions before. They would crush this one too. But something strange was happening on the ground. The more pressure the Zrath applied, the harder the humans fought back. When the Zrath destroyed their improvised weapons, the humans built new ones. When the Zrath cut their communication lines, the humans used primitive radio frequencies. When the Zrath thought they had the colonists cornered, the humans would counterattack from an unexpected direction. It was like fighting smoke. Every time Threshcore thought he had them, they slipped away and struck from somewhere else. After 3 days of brutal combat, Threshcore made a decision. "Prepare orbital bombardment. We're going to destroy the entire settlement from space." "Sir, that will kill all the humans. Thousands of civilians." "That's the point. We'll make an example of them. Show the rest of humanity what happens when they defy us." The message that changed everything. But before Threshcore could give the final order, a message came through from Earth. Not on military frequencies, the Zrath had jammed those, but broadcast on every civilian channel, every emergency frequency, every radio wavelength. The message was from Admiral James Hawkins, commander of Earth's defense fleet. "This is Admiral Hawkins to the Zrath Empire. We have received word of your attack on New Hope. We are en route with 40 warships and will arrive in 4 days. But I want to give you a chance to withdraw peacefully before we get there. Threshcore laughed. 40 ships? We have 300 in this sector alone. Is he threatening us? But then Admiral Hawkins said something that made Threshcore's blood run cold. I know you're thinking your numbers give you an advantage. You're probably thinking humans are too young, too primitive, too weak to challenge your empire. Let me tell you something about my species. We've been killing each other for 10,000 years. We've perfected warfare on a scale you can't imagine. We've developed weapons that can crack planets and strategies that would horrify you. But we stopped using them on each other because we learned something important: we're better as friends than enemies. The Admiral paused. You just made us your enemy. And you did it by attacking civilians. Colonists who had no weapons, no military training, no way to fight back. You thought that would make you look strong. Instead, you just united every human in the galaxy against you. The truth about human unity. Governor Martinez heard the broadcast from her makeshift command center. Around her, exhausted colonists listened with tears in their eyes. You've been fighting New Hope for 3 days now, Admiral Hawkins continued. And I bet you're confused. You're wondering how farmers and builders have held off your professional military. You're wondering why they won't surrender even when defeat seems certain. Let me explain. Those colonists down there aren't just defending their homes. They're proving something to you and to every species in the galaxy. They're proving that humans don't give up. We don't surrender. We don't bow down just because someone is bigger or older or stronger. Admiral Hawkins' voice grew hard. You have 4 days to withdraw completely from the New Hope system. Take your ships. Take your troops. And never come back. If you're still there when we arrive, we won't just defend our colony. We'll make sure the entire galaxy knows what happens when you attack humanity. Is that a threat? Threshcore muttered. As if hearing him, Admiral Hawkins said, That's not a threat. That's a promise. And humans always keep their promises. The decision that saved an empire. Emperor Krelvor received Threshcore's report with fury. They dare to threaten us? The Zrath Empire? We should destroy their entire fleet. But then one of his advisors, an old Zrath named Velknor, spoke up. My Emperor, perhaps we should consult the records. The Galactic Academic Council issued a warning about humanity 300 years ago. I don't care about ancient warnings from scholars. With respect, my Emperor, you should. Velknor displayed the records. The warning was issued by Professor Velkara, the most respected xenologist in galactic history. She spent years studying humanity. And she concluded that attacking them would be the worst mistake any species could make. Krelvor read Velkara's report. As he did, his anger slowly transformed into something else. Fear. She says humans have survived 7 extinction events, Velknor continued. She says they've fought over 15,000 wars against themselves. She says they possess an adaptability and stubbornness that makes them nearly impossible to defeat. And she recommends that no species ever give them a reason to see you as an enemy. Why wasn't I informed of this before? You were, my Emperor. 15 years ago, when human colonies first entered our territory. You dismissed the warning as cowardice. Krelvor looked at the tactical displays showing New Hope. A colony of 50,000 civilians had held off his military forces for 3 days using improvised weapons and sheer determination. What would happen when an actual human military force arrived? And what would happen if he started a war with a species that had been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years? Order Threshcore to withdraw, Krelvor said quietly. Immediately. Before the human fleet arrives. But my Emperor, that will be seen as weakness. Better to be seen as weak than to be destroyed entirely. Withdraw our forces. Now. The colony that refused to fall. When the Zrath ships began pulling back, the colonists of New Hope couldn't believe it. They had been preparing for one final desperate defense, expecting to be wiped out from orbit. Instead, they watched as 20 Wrath warships retreated from their system and jumped to FTL, leaving without firing another shot. Governor Martinez stood in the town square, surrounded by exhausted, wounded colonists. Many were crying. Some were laughing. All of them were alive. Did we win? Someone asked. Martinez looked at the departing Wrath ships on her tactical display. Yeah, she said, her voice filled with wonder. I think we did. When Admiral Hawkins arrived 4 days later with the Earth Defense Fleet, he found New Hope still standing. The colonists had defended their home using nothing but determination and improvised weapons. They had sent a message to the galaxy without meaning to: humanity could not be pushed around. The Admiral's first action was to land on New Hope and meet with Governor Martinez. He found her in the town square, organizing repair crews. Governor Martinez, he said, saluting. It's an honor to meet you. She returned the salute tiredly. Admiral. Thanks for the backup, even if we didn't end up needing it. Oh, you needed it. Trust me. If we hadn't been coming, the Wrath would have destroyed you from orbit. But you bought enough time. You showed them that humans don't break easily. Martinez looked around at her battered colony. We just didn't want to leave our home. I know. That's what makes humanity dangerous to our enemies. We fight for what we love. And we don't stop fighting until we win or until we're dead. The warning that spread like fire. News of New Hope spread across the galaxy within weeks. Every species heard the story of how 50,000 human colonists held off the Wrath Empire using farming equipment and construction vehicles. The Galactic Academic Council reopened Valkera's report and shared it widely. Other species began to understand what the Caltharians had known for 3 centuries: humanity was different. The Wrath Empire tried to save face by claiming they had withdrawn for diplomatic reasons. No one believed them. Within a year, 3 Wrath colony worlds had rebelled, inspired by humanity's example. Within 5 years, the Empire had lost half its territory. Emperor Krelvor abdicated in disgrace. Before he left the throne, he issued one final decree: never attack humanity. Never threaten them. Never give them a reason to unite against you. I learned this lesson too late. Let my failure teach you. On Earth, humans celebrated the victory at New Hope. But they also took the lesson to heart. They had been lucky. The Wrath had been arrogant and unprepared. The next enemy might not make the same mistakes. So humanity began to build. Not just colonies, but proper defenses. Not just exploration ships, but warships. Not just civilian infrastructure, but military academies. They prepared for the day when someone else might test them again. Because that's what humans do. They adapt. They learn. They survive. And they never forget. The legacy of New Hope. Years later, Professor Valkera, now ancient even by Caltharian standards, visited New Hope. The colony had grown into a thriving city of 500,000 people. A monument stood in the town square, commemorating the 3-day battle that had changed galactic history. Governor Martinez, now retired, met Valkera at the monument. Both women were old now, their bodies worn by time. I read your report, Martinez said. The one you wrote 300 years ago. You predicted all of this. Not all of it, Valkera replied. I knew humans would spread. I knew they would face challenges. But even I didn't expect you to defend your colony with farming equipment against a military empire. Martinez laughed. We didn't have much choice. It was fight or run, and running isn't really in our nature. No, Valkera agreed. It's not. That's what makes your species so remarkable. And so dangerous. Are you afraid of us? The old Caltharian considered the question. Yes, she said honestly. But I'm also hopeful. You see, every species reaches a point where they have to choose what kind of civilization they want to be. Conquerors or builders? Destroyers or creators? Most species choose based on strength. They conquer if they can, they submit if they can't. And humans? Humans are strong enough to conquer. But you choose to build instead. You defend yourselves fiercely when attacked, but you don't seek to dominate others. That's rare. That's precious. That's why I'm hopeful. Martinez smiled. You make us sound better than we are. We've done terrible things in our history. Yes, but you learn from them. You change. You grow. That's the difference. Del Cara looked at the monument. The galaxy needed to learn what happens when you attack humanity. New Hope taught that lesson. And I believe, I hope, that lesson will prevent future wars rather than cause them. So what happens now? Martinez asked. What's next for humanity? Del Cara looked up at the stars. That's up to you. The galaxy is watching. Some species fear you. Some admire you. All of them respect you. What you do with that respect will define your species for millennia to come. No pressure, huh? The old professor laughed. No pressure at all. Just the future of galactic civilization resting on your shoulders. They stood together in comfortable silence, two old women from different species, watching the sunset over a world that had refused to surrender. Above them, human ships patrolled the system. Around them, a city thrived. And across the galaxy, a warning remained in effect. Do not attack humanity. They have survived worse than you. They have endured more than you can imagine. They don't surrender. They don't break. They adapt, they learn, and they win. You have been warned.